So I hope you like my new intro. I think it says a lot about what's going on in this country. The anger, resentment. This debate that we're having with people like Liz Cheney talking about the rule of law and dealing with this Israeli atrocities against Palestinians. I'm getting really sick of it. I think you might be as well. For Liz Cheney to get up and say that we must abide by the rule of law, and what a freaking hypocrite. Her father was the worst violator of the rule of law that we've had probably in a century. Give me a freaking break. To lie, specifically to lie, to get the United States into a war with a country that never attacked us and did not have weapons of mass destruction, is a war crime. That is a war crime. The people that perpetrated it, like Cheney and Rumsfeld and the neocons, need to be in prison. If this had been a Nuremberg trial, where there was actual standards of conduct, where the United States still had some integrity, these people would have been hung. And now Israel, the Republican, the conservatives are running to Israel's side. Israel is creating war crimes. How can the Republican Party not know this unless they don't know history? The Zionists and the British caused this problem over there. They stabbed the Arabs in the back. Israel came in 1947 and 48 and took double the land that they were supposed to be, that they were given by the UN mandate, and threw 200,000 Palestinians out of their homes, threw their belongings and furniture out into the street. I know personally someone whose family had been done that way. Now, if you want to create animosity and hatred, that's one good way to do it. And that's what they did. And then to call the Palestinians that are retaliating against their oppression and occupation of the Gaza Strip and the settlements, they're doing it right now. They're throwing Palestinians out of their homes and trying to lie and say, oh, these people are terrorists. And the Republicans are going along with it. It's war crimes. These people need to be in prison. This is bullshit. The problem is that the United States is being run by psychopaths, and we are an American empire. There's very little difference between us and the Roman Empire right now. We are forcing our will onto the world's population. We have over 800 military bases all around the world. We have surrounded Iran, surrounded Iraq, surrounded Syria. We have bases all around Russia and China. No wonder these people are scared shitless. We're the only country that ever dropped a nuclear weapon on anyone. And that, besides that was a war crime as well. Because the Japanese were already in negotiations for a surrender. The Catholic Church was involved, working on a surrender agreement. The Japanese had an embargo on them. They were locked down. There was nothing they could do. We did not need to drop two nuclear weapons on Japan. Did not need to happen. But the British were involved and demanded that Harry Truman do it to show the world that we had nuclear weapons and no one else did, and that you better bow to our will. The British have really screwed up this world. And if you read anything, like for instance that book, As I Saw It, by Franklin Roosevelt's son, Elliot Roosevelt, he was basically his father's secretary. And he told Winston Churchill that we are not in this war to save the British Empire. In fact, the British Empire will be dismantled. The British Empire is the reason why we have the problems that we have, their colonial policies. And they're still at it. So that's what's going on. And if you can't see it and you don't understand it, then you don't know history. Because you need to read the history of Israel and what they did and how the British manipulated the Arabs to fight against the Ottoman Empire in World War I. How they double deal. They promised the Arabs independence and their own sovereign nations, and they also promised in that Balfour Agreement that they would give the Zionists Palestine. When the Arabs found out that they had been screwed, they had justified anger and resentment. And when Israel was formed and the Zionists were moving in Jews into a situation, throwing out Palestinian families so that Jews could move in, you want to create hatred and anger and resentment, that's the way to do it. And then when you have retaliation, the occupied Palestinians in the Gaza is an open-air prison. They cannot leave. They are imprisoned there. And when you're raining down bombs and blowing up housing projects and like that apartment building that they destroyed, they leveled, that is a war crime. They're blowing up roads and infrastructure around, for instance, around the hospitals. It's an abomination. It's an outrage. Republicans need to be taught a lesson. This is insane. And then we give Israel $3 billion a year so that they can keep their weapons built up, so that they can continue to bomb Palestine and create situations. They are lying about what's going on with Iraq. They are lying about Syria. They are making this shit up, and the United States goes along with it. So anyway, that's my rant for the day. Try to have a good day.